Thank you everyone for joining us today for our weekly training webinar. Today, we are going to be covering the topic of shift alerts and clashes, which is part of our scheduling feature in Astalty. You will see me looking away from the screen from time to time. That's just as I manage all of the content across multiple monitors, but let's get started. Alrighty, so just some housekeeping. If you do have any questions about Astalty, processes, features, difficulties that you are having, or things that don't make sense, we will take turns using the raise hand function in Google Meet or through the chat. This session is also being recorded and will be uploaded to the user guide after the session. If for any reason I don't have the answer to one of your questions, I will find out and I'll email you after the session. To use the raise hand function, simply click on the highlighted option down the bottom of the screen. It's identified by a little hand icon. I'll be able to see that you've raised your hand to ask a question. If you no longer need to ask the question, you can press that button again and it will lower your hand, but Google will also automatically lower it for you as you speak. If you'd prefer to use a chat option rather than verbalize any questions, you can do so by clicking the chat icon down the bottom of Google Meet. It's represented by a little messaging icon. I'll be able to see any messages that come through during the session as I'll have this open on my screen as well. Just some upcoming dates for training sessions that we will be conducting. So we've got one more training session for the month of March, and that will be next Tuesday, and we'll be covering all of the new features that have been released throughout March. So that will be a great one to attend. There's been some quite significant updates and really cool new features that have been released. So we really encourage you to join that session as well. And at that session, we'll provide information on what will be coming up for the month of April. Okie dokie. So let's jump into our session. We're going to cover shift alerts and shift clashes. So our shift alerts are reactive, about fixing issues, where shift clashes are more of a proactive approach, so identifying issues before they become a problem. This helps to ensure that staff are getting paid correctly, that you're avoiding service gaps, and it keeps our scheduling clean and compliant as well. So let's jump into shift alerts. To find shift alerts, you're going to navigate to the scheduling tab, and we'll click on shift alerts in the sub menu. So in here, we have the ability to view any shift alerts based on a certain date range. So to change the date, you've got the option of toggling using the arrows, or you can click into the date field and select the relevant date range that you'd want to view, and then click select. The table displays all of the shift alerts for that date range and are broken down by support worker, shift type, start time, end time, and the status. You'll find that on the status that you'll see an icon identifying how long it's been since this status occurred or didn't occur in this instance. In this instance, we're looking at a shift that hasn't been clocked in because it's actually a cancelled support, and that's identified by the whole line being lit up in red. In these supports here, we can see that the support worker is also yet to clock in, and it's been quite some time since they should have. Okay, so what we'll do now is show you how you can sort this information from the table. So these headings, support worker, start time, end time, just support worker start time and end time can be filtered or sorted to make it easier for you to view the items within the shift alerts table. So just by clicking on the heading, you'll be able to sort by date, like so. And this just makes it a little bit easier to navigate if you're looking at date order for your supports. Now, cancelled supports will appear in the shift alerts by default. That's because these need to be addressed before they can be sent for approval. And the reason being is that the charge behaviour needs to be reviewed to make sure that you are billing accordingly and paying your staff as you intend. You'll see with cancelled supports that you have a little red icon, which if you click on will display what the charge behaviour is and what the pay behaviour is. Now, if for any reason this information was not correct, you do have the ability to click into the support and update these details. So to do this, we'll click on the three dots and we'll click on View Shift. Within here, we can click on Update Cancellation Details, and we can see that we have no charge applied to the participant, but we will be paying the support worker. So you can make changes in here. If you do need to charge the participant for whatever reason, you can do that simply by clicking on the radio button and then clicking update at the bottom of your page. We'll leave this one as it is and we'll close out for now. We'll close out of this support and we'll navigate back to the Shift Alerts page. Now, you will need to clock in, or you will need to review any supports that have not been clocked in or clocked out before they will actually appear on the Shift Approvals page. Now, you can request that your support workers do this, but if you want to process this quickly from the scheduler's perspective, it's quite simple to do so. There's two ways around this. We can click on the three dots next to the relevant support and click Clock In. This will open a pop-up which defaults to the scheduled start time for that support. Now you can leave this as is, or if you click in this field, you also have the ability to change the time of this clock in. So say for instance, we wanted to make this a 2:15 start time, we simply select that time and then click on the select option. We'll leave this as is for now, but you can also enter a reason for clocking in. Perhaps the support worker didn't have access to their device and couldn't log in. And then we click on clock in. Now that shift has now changed to a status showing that the support worker has not clocked out. The same process applies as we did for clocking in. If we choose the three-dot menu, we can now click on clock out. And the same principle applies. If you need to change that time, you can do so here, but it will default to the scheduled finish time and you can add your reason for clocking out. And just enter example for the time being. So that shift will now move into our shift approvals for the date range we have selected up here. You go through and do the same for all of the other shifts remaining in the shift alerts, but you can also clock in from a different method. So if you wanted to have a look at the shift, simply click on the three dots and select View Shift. And then from this screen, you can click on the three dots for the support worker. From here, you'll see that you also have the option to clock in from this menu, and the same exact process applies as we did from the Shift Alerts page, where you can clock in for the support worker either at the default time of that support or by overriding. We'll close out and that should now update. So the next thing that we can do here when we're looking at supports that have been cancelled is sending these for approval. So we've had a look at this cancelled support, we've checked the pay behaviour and we're happy with everything there. We simply click on the three dots and send this support for approval. You'll be prompted to confirm that the information is correct and you want to send this off for approval. Simply click on the box and that will move this support into the Shift Approvals page as well. Okay, were there any questions on this so far? No? All good. Okay, so we do also have the ability to undo clock-ins and clock-outs. So occasionally you may find that a clock-in has been done accidentally or you got the time incorrect. So let's jump in to this shift here and we'll clock in on behalf of the support worker and we're going to leave it at 9 o'clock. We'll click on clock in. We're later notified that that actually wasn't the time that the support worker clocked in. So we can update this by clicking on the three dots and then selecting undo clock in. You'll be prompted to confirm that you understand that by removing this clock in, all of that data will be removed. Simply tick the box and enter a reason for why you're undoing that action and click on undo clock in. And that clock in is now removed and you can go ahead and put the correct clock in time in place. Now the same applies if you want to clock out. If you need to undo both clock out and a clock in, it does work in the reverse order. So you'll first need to undo the clock out and then you will have the option to undo the clock in as well. And from the same three-dot menu next to the support workers shift. We've got a question there from Astrid. Oh, hi, Astrid, no problems at all. If you don't have the scheduling tab, it's an indicator that scheduling is not enabled on your account. So if you want to send through a request to our support team, we can provide you with the details to turn this feature on. Just email us at support@astalty.com.au or click on the support button in your Astalty browser and we'll be happy to share the instructions with you via email. No problems at all. You're very welcome. All right, so the next thing that I will show you is the audit trail within the support, just quickly before we move on to the shift clashes report. By clicking on actions within a support and selecting audit trail, you'll be able to see any history of clocking in and clocking out data and who created that clock in. So you can see here that I have added the shift clock in and it's addressed my user profile name here as well. All right, so if you have any questions on this, please raise those now. I'll be more than happy to go through any of those questions. Got someone else joining us. No problems. All right then. So what we might do then is we'll move over to our shift clashes report. So you'll find this within the scheduling menu under shift clashes report. And this has actually undergone an overhaul just last week. So it's great timing for us to be sharing how this report works because you'll get the most up-to-date version of this report. So shift clashes is your proactive scheduling tool and it helps you catch issues before they impact your service delivery. You'll be able to identify double bookings where support workers are scheduled on to more than one support at a time, or any conflicts with leave or unavailability, as well as the ability to fix clashes where support may be back to back without enough time for travel between those shifts. So within the shift clashes report, you'll see that we have a couple of options for sorting. We can select the date range here, again by toggling between these arrows, or you can click on the date range to select a specified date range of your choosing. Just click on select once you're happy with those dates. You can also break the event type down by support, group support, internal shift, or leave period. It's important to note though that if you do choose one of these options, if either of the supports has group support, they will be displayed. So like we'll click on here for group support, we're also seeing leave periods because this group support is clashing with a leave period. In this instance, we've got group support as our selection. The group support is clashing with a one-to-one support. You can deselect by just clicking back on group support to show all of the shift clashes within the date range that you've selected. Okay, so on this report, we'll see that we have the support worker listed, the shift details of the current support, and the support that it's clashing with. Again, you can sort by clicking on the header for shift details, support worker, and clashes with to change the order of the information on your screen. We'll leave it as support worker for the time being. You'll also be able to see at a glance which supports are most urgently requiring to be addressed, and that's indicated by red icons. So this will be for supports that directly overlap with another shift. And it includes travel time conflicts as well. So if one of your supports has travel from a support and that runs over into the start time of another support, that will be picked up here and identified with the red icon. You'll also see red icons where leave periods conflict with supports as well. So like we can see here, we've got a leave period and it's identified as red. The other type of color notification you'll see here are orange spots, and these identify where a support is back-to-back with another session. It's important to note here that pending leave applications won't actually form part of this shift clashes report. So you will need to navigate through to your unavailability requests and check all of those off, perhaps before you come in and complete any of your shift clashes. All right, so let's have a look at how this appears to you as the user when you are reviewing the shift clashes. If you click on a support, you'll now be able to see the two shift times, identifying that there is a shift overlap. Now, in this instance, we can see that the shifts run for the exact same time and it's not possible for the support worker to be in two places at once. So what we can do here is click on the three dots next to the shift, or next to the clash, sorry. We can view this in the schedule, which is displayed with a list of the supports that are overlapping. We can also click on view this support, which will show us the details listed in this column here. And then we can also view the details of the support that it's clashing with by clicking on view clashing support. So you now have the option here to unassign the support worker from whichever shift is most relevant. We'll go ahead and remove this shift from SCHADS schedule by clicking on the 3 dots next to the support worker's details and selecting unassigned support worker. Now, if it's just for this particular session, we can go ahead and leave the information as is. If this was going to be the same case for all of the other supports identified, we can select those as well and add our reason for unassigning. Then go ahead and click on your unassign shifts. This will remove those shifts from the shift clashes report. So we can go ahead and close out of here now, and that shift has been removed. Where you have your leave periods, the same applies. You'll come in and click on the 3 dots and then view this support to unassign the support worker from this shift. So we'll click on unassign, enter a reason, and unassign the shift. Now, each of these shifts, as you're unassigning them, will move back into the unassigned shifts page. So we'll navigate through there. I'll just refresh the page quickly. We'll navigate to our unassigned shifts. And from here, we can now go through and we can apply a new or assign a new support worker to these supports. So we had a shift for Hayley, which I will just change here. Sorry, I must have got the participant's name wrong. What we'll do is we'll open up one of these shifts just to show you as an example. Click into the support, and once you're in here, you'll be able to see all of the support workers who have availability and whether or not their preferences align with the support worker. So from here, we can see that we have a couple of support workers here who are available, but they are not the preferred ethnicity for this participant. So we may choose to avoid assigning them to this shift. We can also now see alerts, which indicate whether or not we are going into an allowance period within the SCHADS award. This also just helps to make sure that you're not paying unnecessarily. If there is another support worker who may be available and would not be going into overtime or insufficient days off, these alerts just let you know ahead that you can schedule someone else to cover that shift rather than paying overtime or any additional allowances. All right, so let's go back to our shift clashes report. And I'm just scrolling through my notes, sorry. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll also show you what it looks like for supports where the supports are back-to-back. So we can see here that there's no travel time between these supports. This is identified because these supports are actually at different addresses. If the supports were back-to-back at the same address, you wouldn't see this shift clash report here because Astalty is identifying that the addresses for those supports are the same and therefore no travel time is required. So this is just alerting you to shifts where there's going to be a conflict in travel time as well. Again, same process, we just click on the 3 dots and we can choose to either unassign the support worker from the support listed in this column or the shift that it's clashing with by clicking on View Clashing Support. And we'll go ahead and unassign Sally from this support. And that's how you manage your shift clashes. Does anyone have any questions on that at all? I'll take no questions to mean that I've explained that well. If you do have any questions after the session, by all means, send those through to us at support@astalty.com.au or via that support button in your Astalty browser, and we'll be happy to go through this with you in more detail. We do have full user guides available on our website, which you can go through and have a look, and these break down how your shift clashes work and how your shift alerts work as well. Just before we finish up on this particular part of the session, I did also just want to address a change that's been made on the shift approvals page. Following user feedback, the shift alerts can sometimes cause some confusion. And sometimes users are missing these as they're going through the shift approval process. And it's not until they're getting to the stage of exporting their timesheets to Xero that they're finding that there is a shift alert that still needs to be addressed and therefore a shift approval that needs to be processed. What we've done is added an alert that you'll see on the shift approvals page based on the date range selected, identifying if there are any shift alerts that need to be reviewed. And you can quickly navigate to those by clicking on the View Shift Alerts. This will allow you to promptly action the clock in and clock out that may be related to this support and allow you to process those shift approvals and get your payroll and your invoicing processed in a timely manner. Any questions on that at all? No problems. Well, what I might do then is open up the floor to any questions that you do have outside of what we've shown today. Feel free to raise your hand if you've got a question or add that to the chat. While you're thinking about questions you may like to ask, I will also just quickly touch on those participant preferences. So as I was showing you in scheduling, if you have unassigned shifts, you can see the participants' preferences listed in the support workers table. So you can update a participant's preferences by navigating to their profile. Now you can do that either through the participants menu item, or you can also click on the arrow directly next to the participant within the support. This is a quick navigation through to their profile. And from here, you'll select preferences in their menu. And we can see here that we have a couple of preferences already set. So we've got an ethnicity preference. The participant wants a support worker who shares their cultural background and understands their traditions. You can go ahead and add another preference by clicking on the option up the top right, selecting the preference type. Now the available options are minimum age, maximum age, ethnicity, or gender. So let's go ahead and click maximum age in this instance. You'll now be able to enter a value within this field, and that will then pick up the user profile details and confirm whether or not they fall within that date range. How important is this preference? For some people, this may be a must-have. For some, it might be a nice-to-have. You can simply select the option you'd prefer. And then you can enter any background information relevant to this preference as well. And then go ahead and click on Create Preference once you have entered a reason. Okay. Now, as far as compatibility is concerned, we can click on Add Compatibility, and we have the option of selecting between whether a support worker is incompatible or a preferred support worker. So I will show you quickly how to do that for preferred support worker. Simply select the option, and then from the drop-down, you'll see a list of all of the support workers who are currently within your Astalty account. Simply select who it is that you'd prefer to list here and any details. Perhaps they have worked with participant in the past, and click Create. So now when we look at any supports for this participant, we will see that Chad is actually a preferred support worker, and that will just help us in navigating assignment of support workers to shifts. We've had a question here from Amanda. When going in to write a note at the end of a shift, I'm getting a message that we don't have that feature. Is this a general issue or specific to my plan? Is that from the support worker app, Amanda? Okay, that sounds to me like it's possibly a bug. So I might get you to send us through a request to our support team, support@astalty.com.au, or through the support button within your app or the web browser. And actually, I don't think there is a support button in the app. So just send that through as an email and we'll have our team look into that. If you could just send us a screenshot of your user profile in the app, which shows the version that you're on, that will just help our engineers to identify if it's related to that version or if there is an underlying cause that might need to be reviewed by the team. Cool. Excellent. Thanks, Amanda. All right. So let's also have a look at participant supports. So within the participant's profile, if you have access to scheduling, you'll see the supports menu item here. Within this section, you'll be able to see any shifts that have been created for this participant, and you can also navigate into that support directly by clicking on the relevant support. Now we can see here that this support session has yet to be assigned to a support worker and is unpublished. So we might go ahead and assign a support worker to this particular support. We can see here that we've got Chad listed as a preferred support worker, although the ethnicity requirement doesn't meet. We can assume that this participant would be happy to work with Chad. However, he's unavailable. So in this instance, we might select John Smith for this support, and we'll assign the shift to him. And confirm. We'll go back. And into the participant supports. We can now open this support up and we can publish this shift. The support worker will then get the notification that they have been scheduled onto a support. And if we close out of here, we now also have the option to share this support schedule with the participant. To do that, we can click on Actions in the top right-hand corner, and we can either choose to email the supports as a PDF. This might be particularly useful if you're sharing these details, perhaps with a support coordinator, or you can export the supports as PDF. This gives you the option to print that out and provide a hard copy to the participant if they prefer. So let's have a look at how that exports as a PDF. You can choose for supports delivered within this week, next week, and auto assignment of those dates will apply, or you can choose a specific date range. You can also choose to exclude any cancelled supports. If you choose this, those won't be listed on the printout. However, if there were some cancelled supports and you did want those to be viewed, you can leave this box unchecked. We'll go ahead and click Submit. And I'll open up what this looks like. You'll receive a PDF download that will arrive in the downloads folder of your device. In here, you'll see details about the provider delivering supports yourself, the participant's name and the date range that we are reviewing here. I might just make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. What we can also see here is each of the shifts that have been published within this date range. So any unpublished shifts won't appear in this print off. What we can see is the date of the support, the day that that support falls on, the time of the session, the support worker, and for their confidentiality, we have made this so that their surname is not clearly identified, just the first letter of their surname is shown, and then the duration of how long that support will be carried out for. So this is a great way to share that information with participants. We will just jump back into this page that displays the supports for the participants, and I'll quickly show you how it looks if you're going to email the support as a PDF. So we'll click on the option to email supports. Again, we have those same selection criteria here for the dates that we may want to show the participant or the stakeholder who is going to be receiving this PDF. Then we can select the recipients. Now from the drop down here, if you click into the name field, you'll be able to see anyone who is connected with this participant. So I'm connected with the participant, I can send it directly to the participant. So anyone with an email address will be able to be selected from this list. You may wish to send this to the public guardian who is identified in this list as well. So when you click on their name, their email will auto-populate and they can then receive a copy of the support schedule. So you have the option of updating the email subject line as well. And then you can go in and type whatever details you'd like to put in here as the content of that email as well. So for instance, please see attached schedule. Once you're happy, simply click on Submit, and that email will be sent off to the selected recipient with a copy of that PDF schedule outlining the supports within that date range. Any questions on that at all? No worries. Are there any other questions that you have in regards to any other functions within Astalty that I can help you with today? No worries, Ellie, thanks. All right, we might move on to the next stage of the session for today. We do have a new feature that's been released and is quite a popular request, and that's the ability to duplicate a task. So users can now duplicate tasks, including finance items, to quickly replicate task fundamentals. The important thing to note here is that any notes associated with the task are not duplicated, and that's to avoid any confusion or unintended carryover of content. We will share a guide link within the weekly training session that goes up online after this session, which will provide you with the full details of how to duplicate a task, but we will also cover this in more detail during our session next week on new features. I will quickly just show you how it looks. So if we navigate to our tasks board and we have a look at this task here for our participant Holden, we'll click into the support and we can see here that we have under the finance tab a couple of different charges applied to this task. Now, because we've looked into the housing options but we haven't found a solution, we're going to recreate this task for a date in the future. What we can do is click on actions and then click on clone task. This will capture the task details like the name, the date that the task was carried out, the participant's name, the team member's name, the charge item or primary charge item associated with that task, the duration that was applied to the task, whether it was a billable or completed task, and it will also show any other additional charges that have been added, which we saw previously included the kilometres for this task. So you now have the option to make any changes before you create the new duplicated task. You may choose to remove the duration, for example, so we'll reset that back to 0. And we may want to change the date that we're going to complete this task to perhaps Thursday of this week. So we'll select that date. We can then go ahead and potentially add in some notes just to get us started. Using our templates, we're going to choose our progress note just so that we have all of the relevant information there that we know we're going to need to capture when we come to complete this task. Once everything is looking as intended, you can simply go ahead and create the task. If for some reason you did actually want to remove the additional charges that are on this task, simply click on the 3 dots next to the charge and then click on remove, and you can go ahead and create that task. We'll now see that on the 26th, we'll have a task there for Holden that replicates the task that we completed on the day prior. Okay, is there a chance that we can report incidents via the support worker app, please? Yeah, absolutely. So in order to do that, you'll need to have an incident report form that has been generated, and the settings will need to allow for support workers to be able to complete that across all supports. So we'll have a look at how that is set up. We'll jump into settings, and we will go to scheduling. We'll click on edit. Sorry, no, my apologies. This is within forms. We'll go to forms. And then if we have our participant incident form, we may navigate to manage forms to manage this. Click on participant incident report form, and then we'll go to settings. Now, in order for support workers to see this within the app, there's a couple of things that need to be done. You'll need to make sure that who can fill out this form has been set up so that everyone is selected. And we'll see here that we've got team member and support worker visible in the groups. We'll click back into here. The important thing is that you click on this option here to allow support workers to complete this form on any supports within the Astalty app. Once this option has been selected and you update the form, this will now be available on any support that your support workers are assigned to, and they'll be able to find that by navigating to the shift and then selecting forms within the shift itself. And that will show up any forms that are available for them to complete, including forms that may be associated only with a specific participant. So an example of that might be, we'll jump back into our forms and just have a look. We have this new form here. We'll jump into settings. In order for it to be accessible just to the support workers on the shift with the participant, and this might be like a behaviour form or a medication form that's relevant only to a particular participant, we'll click on edit and we'll still make sure that everyone is selected, but we'll deselect this option to allow support workers to complete this form on any supports within the Astalty app. This then means that support workers will only be able to view and submit this form for participants that they are associated with. So we'll go ahead and click update on this one, and we'll jump into a participant's profile, and we're going to go down to forms. In here, we can see that we have the associated forms section. If we click on Add Form and select our new form, this form submission may also be required on clock out. It's a great idea to do this if it is important information to capture, such as tracking medication or behaviour. Click on Associate, and then any supports for this participant, no matter who is providing that support, will be able to access that form and complete the relevant information. Does that help answer your question, Amanda? No problems at all. You're very welcome. If you're finding that forms are not appearing as I've sort of implied that they will, definitely reach out to us, send us some screenshots, and we'll be happy to have a look in and see if there is anything that might be causing that to not work as intended. All right. Before we wrap up for today, were there any other questions that anyone has that I can cover for you while we're in the session? No problems. All right, well, let's stay in touch. If you have any questions, ideas, or want to continue the conversation, feel free to reach out. You can send us an email to support@astalty.com.au, or you can contact us by clicking on the support button in your Astalty browser. You can send us a bug report, a feature request, or a general inquiry, and one of our team members will get back to you generally within 45 minutes. If you're not already on LinkedIn, definitely jump on there and create your own account. We have Kian, who is quite active on LinkedIn. So if you're looking to see updates, it's worth following Kian. You can do so by scanning that QR code on the screen. He does post regular updates, so definitely jump on and follow if you're not already. But otherwise, thank you all so very much for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful week. We'll catch you all at the next session on Tuesday. Thank you so much, everyone.